So last episode, we introduced you to a story that we are diving into.
Great story, compelling and rich.
An Arlington construction company says it worked around the clock last February to clean up a flooded school. Months later, it says it has yet to be paid.
This was 2021. Winter Storm Uri hits Texas.
Emergencies have been declared in several states across the central and southern U.S.
Eric Hernandez, our friend,
Hey, John.
on the ground in Houston, gave you an idea of what they were experiencing.
And then I was on a treadmill, saw on the news, they're like, oh, winter storm coming. And then I saw on the next door app, someone's like, oh, should you empty your pipe? So I never lived in cold weather. And so I remember I texted my father-in-law, that's what I'm living with right now, but I was at the gym and I was like, hey, are we supposed to do this? And he's like, oh, yeah, it's probably like a good idea. And I think that's what saves his house.
What you're doing is terrific.
As a contractor, do you ever ask yourself,
what the hell are we doing here, Harry?
guests and lessons learned the hard way, we try to help you shorten your dang learning curve. If you have not listened to the DYOJO Podcast, episode 91,
I believe the AISD and its board could be trusted, so my company swung into action.
perhaps you've heard about this case.
We did the job we were hired to do.
What constitutes a contract and agreement when there's multiple parties involved in a project? Now would be a great time to hit pause, maybe go back and listen to that.
Now the AISD is saying, screw you, we don't owe you a penny because we are the government.
It'll help set up the context for what we're about to discuss in this episode.
Feels like deja vu, deja vu, deja vu. Here we are about a year later, talking about freezes.
You are hearing the voice of Robert Jordan, the RJ in RJ Construction.
Hello and good morning, everyone.
And you'll be hearing that voice throughout this series.
Deja vu, Spaghetti Snowmageddon, here it is again.
As this area that's not used to extreme weather and heavy snow load was hit.
Temperatures dropped below freezing for days. Millions lost power and water.
And then a contractor, a local contractor, responding to a large local high school being impacted by this freeze.
What the industry needs is conversations like this.
Am I a dreamer? Just maybe. I hope all my contracting friends, after they listen, will say,
so you're telling me there's a chance?
The DYOJO Podcast.
So you're diving into a case that's RJ Construction versus Arlington Independent School District.
If you watch RJC's site and they got the community involved, they put signs out, pay RJC, and people were supporting them. You're like, man, the school district, insurance companies, all the things that you want to hear. You're like, get them, boy. And then you read the AISD school fact sheet. You're like, so, and the truth is probably somewhere in the middle because they're basically saying RJC thinks they're owed over 1.2 million. The school district paid like $187,000, a check that was never cashed, and said there's more if you provide the documentation we need to justify it. We achieved the level of seriousness that you wanted.
It's fantastic. Yes, nicely done on keeping it together.
The DYOJO Podcast.
Should be listening to you.
You have entered the DYOJO Podcast.
Bebo, Crain.
I've got a few opinions on, I think, what should have been done or what can be done. I mean, it's hard to drive from the back seat after the ride's over.
Our guest that behind the scenes looked into a lot of these documents and the court case, tried to dig up information with us to kind of get the full story as best we can.
So their stories.
I think the first thing I ever read was the press release. Did you see this, the RJC construction facts from Arlington Independent? So first reading that, you're like, oh man.
Well, pardon me, Mr. Perfect.
These guys just aren't playing ball. And then you start reading some of the other stuff and it's like, okay, well, maybe there's more to it.
I guess I forgot that you never ever make a mistake.
So in this episode, we want to look a little into who is RJ Construction.
Good morning, I'm Robert Jordan, I'm the owner of RJ Construction. I started this crazy mess in 2007. We are a commercial and residential remodeling company.
If you're not watching, what we're seeing here is a video from YouTube. The title is Why RJ Construction, and he is standing at the front of a room where there's clearly other people in the room, and the tablecloth says BNI, Business Networking. It's a popular group that a lot of contractors use to try to get associated with other businesses in the community and get their name out there. He's presenting primarily on roofing. He references another restoration company in the group. So typically you have people by categories of work, and you're not supposed to overlap or advertise even if you offer a service that maybe another member has. So the idea is get to know other people, know, like, and trust so you can refer others.
So RJ Construction was founded in 2007 by yours truly. I was a loan officer for several banks here at Dallas-Fort Worth, and the economy crashed and needed a job. Needed to find money to supplement my income. So I started selling roofs out of the back of my truck to supplement my income and to make up for it. I chose this path because when I was 15, that's when I laid my first shingle. I was laying shingles here in Arlington, Texas, when I was 15 years old, working for a local fireman right here. And then when I, needed something else to do, I gravitated back to it and quickly learned that, when I was 27 years old, that I wasn't going to lay any shingles anymore. I was too slow for that.
It's wild. I mean, like I said earlier, face value, you read the AISD fact sheet and you're thinking, man, this guy's not playing ball, or are they not familiar with the insurance process? He says basically he started the business in 2007 as a roofing contractor selling roofs when the economy crashed, not just because he saw an opportunity to make money, but when he was 15 years old, he worked for a local firefighter and, had experience laying roofs. RJ Construction had accolades and various awards. They had been on the news. In this presentation, you're seeing a local contractor present himself to a group of local professionals. Say what you will, but this seems like a normal presentation, seems like a normal guy, seems like a normal company that you'd be like, after this presentation, yeah, I probably want to do business with these people.
You either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
We want to give a huge shout out to the sponsors of the DYOJO Podcast. Those organizations also committed helping you shorten your dang learning curve. First off is the Institute of Inspection, Cleaning, and Restoration Certification. You know them industry-wide as CIICRC.
You want full access to all IICRC standards from any device, at any time, and in any place? Get a standard subscription for about 50 cents a day. Visit iicrc.org today.
Also, Advocate Claim Service, LLC, was founded to provide policyholders, brokers, and attorneys with a dedicated claim professional to develop a comprehensive claim presentation strategy. Can I talk to David Princeton?
You got him.
While ACS does not sell insurance, they make it work. If I want to take the anxiety out of my claim, who should I call?
Advocate Claim Service.
Advocate Claim Service. ACS's principal consultant, David Princeton, a friend of the show, has resolved disputed claims, resulting in tremendous results, and also contributes to C&R Magazine's column, Dear David. We're also sponsored by book number 4 from John Isaacson, The Suck Less at Estimating. It's for better project outcomes. Available now as a bestseller through Amazon. David, we've got a problem over here. To the DYOJO Podcast, IZ at thedyojo.com if you're interested in sponsoring or advertising on this show.
I don't know what I'm supposed to do. What am I supposed to do?
The DYOJO Podcast.
So you have an article coming out in the September-October issue that is the first in a 4-part series that we have titled The Truth and Myths of O&P, right?
Guess what just showed up in the mail? Bum, bum, bum. The latest edition of C&R Magazine. This is the September-October 2022 version.
What are the 4 articles that this is broken into?
Okay, so mine's like the intro, right? The 4 modes of profitability for contractors, kind of setting the stage and kind of going through what that looks like as a new contractor and kind of through those initial phases. This is the 4 modes of profitability for contractors that we've been talking about. This is the first in a series.
What are the 4 articles that this is broken into?
Okay, so mine's like the intro, right? So Anthony Nelson is going to write on, he's done extensive work in his companies on overcoming some of those material variances.
Did you catch Anthony Nelson
on Clean Facts Take 5 with Jeff Cross?
If you want to send pricing feedback to Xactimate or your software company of choice.
Tell us about that.
Jeff Cross calls it Take 5, but I see here this video is 6 minutes and 21 seconds. False advertising much?
You liar!
There's a couple different rules I follow. Number one, keep it simple. One of the biggest mistakes I made was I sent him a list of 100 things that were wrong, and it can't land. Number two is...
You didn't think I was going to give it all away, did you? No.
Damn it!
You'll have to watch the video, How to Deal with Restoration Pricing Challenges,
with Jeff Cross and his guest, Anthony Nelson.
Is this not why you were here?
The DYOJO Podcast. And then Ben, the Xactimate pricing custom price list wizard.
My next guest is Wizard. Hi. If you're brand new to the game or you've been doing this for a while, FU pound sand. That's going to help you make better estimates.
And then the final one, I got to be careful about what I say.
The intentional restore said be very, very careful going on a live broadcast with this man because he might get you in trouble in the process.
What do we got? Ed's got some exciting news to share on the litigation front, and it should hit to where he can fully reveal what he's been working on at about this. Like, we didn't plan it this way, but it, like, your timeline for publication and when he thinks that's going to be wrapping up.
DYOJO rocks. We love DYOJO.
That was from an episode of Restoring Today that we recorded with Michelle Blevins from C&R Magazine. She is the publisher, the owner of this prestigious magazine that we now have back in print. There's some great articles in this volume, including another voice you heard. Ed Cross has an article in there, and our friend Eric Sprague, as well as many others. And there's a case study, which is the front cover, about a restoration company that suffered damage at their office while also helping their community.
In a word, chaos.
That I'm looking forward to reading. So great work, Michelle Blevins. You can't beat the price. It's free to get it in print or in your inbox. Great resource for everybody in the industry. Speaking of which, let's get back to our story.
You have entered the DYOJO Podcast.
In 2010, we had to make the decision to jump from the bank or continue to sell roofs. And so in 2010, we incorporated with the state of Texas and formed Robert Jordan Construction LLC and kept the DBA of RJ Construction.
You know, that was a scary time for a lot of people after the recession. You know, I had a construction company and we had to shut the doors. In 2010, I was able to get back into the industry with a large restoration outfit. You know, I didn't have to start completely over, but quite a ways from where I was prior to the recession. I think this is a story any of you that have been in business, you know, for any length of time can really relate to.
So when we talk about roofing and how to choose a contractor, there is zero regulation on roofing contractors. Anyone can be a roofer. Shane's Roofing, we waive your deductible and get you a free flat screen TV. 817, my prepaid cell phone.
Now this is where it gets interesting. You now have a contractor bagging on other contractors, you know, marketing ploys, trying to present, you know, how can you distinguish between a reputable contractor, in this case roofing, and one that maybe isn't reputable.
This is the owner of Metroplex Roof and Fence, former member of this BNI College. Wow.
So a former member, a contractor, the roofer that fulfilled the spot that RJ is now filling in this networking group, apparently had some shady dealings.
Just look at that. Just look at that.
Man's going to jail. An unregulated industry, in a position, taking people's insurance money, negotiating insurance claims, doesn't have a license for it, all those different things that fall into play. This is what happens.
He goes on to present, why RJ is different, listing some of their accolades and their awards that they won. I even found they won 2020 local newspaper best remodeler of the year, voted on by, the local community. There are many items in this story that I can see, and Bebo and I talk about, where it's like, man, I've done that, thinking you're acting in good faith and the other parties are doing the same. So I think the first thing I ever read was the press release. Did you see this? The RJC construction facts from Arlington Independent. So first reading that, you're like, oh man, these guys just aren't playing ball. And then you start reading some of the other stuff and it's like, okay, well, maybe there's more to it. This is the video that RJ Construction put out that had the most traction.
Sam hired my company, RJ Construction, on an emergency basis to repair catastrophic damage to Sam Houston High School caused by Winter Storm Uri last February.
Anything come to mind just looking at this video?
I would never make a video like that if I was in a situation where I was going to go to court.
Yeah.
Or anything like that. That's a no-no, I think, to put that out there.
But boy, you go from this where it looks like a burst pipe, right? And then here they're running tunneling. I mean, it looks like we got brick walls, we got concrete walls, tile walls, CMU. So here's some of their equipment, rental equipment, pallets of drying equipment. And I still don't have a sense. I don't know if this is a construction company, seizing on an opportunity to do some mitigation work.
Well, what happened during snowpocalypse is all these roofers decided they wanted to be a water restoration expert.
This is a segment from the Built Better podcast that we found of Robert Jordan being on that podcast. And it's just a short snip. How ironic is this? A roofing contractor that got into water damage is chastising other roofing contractors for getting into water damage.
Because they were roofers, they thought they could do it. We're roofers, we believe we can do anything. And so it was interesting to watch their wheels turn. And I think what you're going to find is you're going to find contractors venturing more into that water restoration space than they ever have before, because they got a real taste for it back in February and March. And we've been doing fire and water restoration since 2009.
And I think the thing that's scary, that should cause every contractor to take pause, is you're thinking, man, that would never happen to me. My stuff's dialed in. We're going fine. We do things by the book. And that's exactly what he's presenting himself as to the community and the other videos.
We've been doing fire and water restoration since 2009.
Humility goes far, right? I mean, we've heard a major player, a big player in our market, overnight gone, disappeared. Because it's RJ Roofing and Construction. They're multi-site, multi-state. So they're able to pull people resources. I don't know if this is their equipment.
Right.
But boy, if this thing is obliterated like they said, I mean, we've got ducting running in here and a couple of fans,
Yeah, it's hard to say that, without knowing the differences in the services and the circumstances surrounding the other contractors that got paid and the one that didn't. I read somewhere you were saying there was 20 other contractors, maybe repair on the repair side, maybe that did work and got paid.
If we go on the fact sheet from AISD, claimed by RJ Construction, they were the only company available to help. They did the work quickly, and then the district didn't pay them.
So you got my money?
According to AISD, more than 20 Arlington ISD facilities suffered damage caused by Winter Storm Uri. RJ Construction reached out to the district to offer its services. So it wasn't them calling, hey, we got a problem. It's RJ calling them.
I'm going to have to go ahead and sort of disagree with you there. 5
vendors were hired to help dry out flooded schools and perform other necessary services to get students and staff back in their buildings. All other vendors had their invoices reviewed and approved by the adjuster and have been paid in full.
Ooh.
Including the other vendors who worked at Sam Houston High. Not only, according to ISD, were they not the only contractor, they weren't the only contractor working at that particular school.
The difference is there too with the communication with the board or whatever, or why they chose not to pay RJ Construction.
This video is September 12th, so it's quite a bit, after the event.
Maybe the contractor was trying to hedge in advance of his mistakes and make this video to save his business face, maybe not.
So it looks like they did some demo, some flood cuts, got a lot of ducting. Here's the sad music.
Guys, what happened at Sam Houston High School? The AISD now refuses to pay the bill for the services of RJ Construction. They're not refusing to pay just part of the bill. They're actively trying to avoid paying all of it.
So this is one of his claims, right? That they're not paying anything.
Yeah, well, here's a suggestion. Have the money by tomorrow and there won't be any problems.
On the AISD fact sheet, they said, claim RJ Construction performed $1.2 million worth of cleanup work at Sam Houston High.
It's a dragon, right? It's a big dragon that we had to slay. And I was pretty proud of the work we did there.
The construction company says it reached an agreement on a price rate, and after 11 days, it says the total bill came out to $1,245,600.
Fact, according to AISD, RJ Construction billed the district's insurance carrier for $1,245,600 on March 5th, 2021, indicating that 450,000 square feet of the school was dried out by their company, essentially the entire square footage of the Sam Houston High School campus. The fact is that 191,000 square feet of the school was damaged by floodwaters, and that is all that RJ Construction was asked to do, dehumidify or dry.
An AISD spokesperson wrote, as fiduciaries of the public's money, Arlington ISD must examine submitted documentation and confirm the value of services being performed. It's asked for documentation that RJ says doesn't exist.
What would you say you do here?
The DYOJO Podcast.
I hope we've done a good job of weaving a story. There's a decent amount of meat on this bone, a lot to learn. If you've found the DYOJO Podcast to be annoying but helpful, one listener phrased it best: annoying but helpful. Infotaining, we inform you whilst we entertain you. And you'd like to support us, there's a couple ways you can do that. You can buy John a beer. You can click on the DYOJO Podcast the DYOJO/podcast to buy John a beer if you just want to put a few dollars in the pot. Or if you would like to be an annual behind the scenes member, we have that option too. Thank you for listening. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for supporting.
You know, it's different and entertaining, and I think it's pretty cool.
It's infotainment.
Are you not entertained?
We will entertain you whilst we also inform you. According to a professional insurance adjuster with Engel Martin and Associates, RJ Construction performed work valued at $179,520.54. When the adjuster made the district aware of this amount, a certified check dated October 26, 2021 was sent to RJ Construction, along with a letter stating that more amounts could be paid upon receipt of additional documentation. To date, RJ Construction has not deposited the check. So we try to present some of some background into who they are as a company. This isn't just a fly-by-night company that just showed up to do water damage. They said,
We've been doing fire and water restoration since 2009.
And yet, if they're experienced in doing large loss, experienced working with insurance companies, experienced in doing commercial losses, especially on the mitigation side, some of the items don't quite line up.
I've got a few opinions on, I think, what should have been done or what can be done. I mean, it's hard to drive from the back seat after the ride's over.
Next episode, tune back in. We'll dig further into the documentation that we have. If you're a behind-the-scenes member, you would have access to all of our research and the full interview with Bebo Crain. We'll dig in further. Join us for the ride. If you find something, please share that with us, iz@thedyojo.com. You might say that we are annoying but helpful. You can't say you weren't informed or entertained.
Is this not why you were here?
The DYOJO Podcast.
That kind of blows my mind that there's a lot of guys that say they do insurance damage and they just bill the customer, file a lien, and don't worry about all that. I have a hard time finding it practical to do that every time if you want to stay in business for a while, but
This is the stupidest thing I've ever heard.